The first one will be a warning about security as we are more and more open in digital infrastructure. Like security will be key, and so we need to be prepared. And there will be also a hope with our last keynote, Jonathan Bourguignon, about like internet year zero. So if we're at year zero, what's for us at year one, year two, and year three, and others? So for now, we have Alissa Knight. She's a famous hacker. She's a famous influencer in the security world, and especially in the API security world. We're really glad to have her again at the Apidays conference. We're glad to work with her. Hello, Alissa. How are you?
I'm good. Hi. Good morning, everyone. How are you,
Yeah.
Mehdi?
Yeah. Good morning in the US. Good afternoon in Europe. Good night in Asia. We have people a little bit from all around the world. Yeah. So, Alissa, first, everybody says the way you stage your how it's staged. Like it's great. The purple, the anonymous mask, and everything. Like that's awesome. That's your brand and your let's say ability to communicate really well. We have a keynote with you about security, about challenges about security, especially as we were talking earlier with the Web3, with cryptocurrency. So I'll let you share your slides and tell the story you have for us.
Fantastic. Yeah. Good morning, everyone. Thank you again for joining us. I'm very appreciative to Mehdi and the API Days team for inviting me back to speak at API Days. I believe this is my first time presenting at API Days Paris. So it's a pleasure to be here and want to thank all of you for your time. So, having said that, I'm going to go ahead and get started here. So, just a quick background on who I am. Key takeaways from my research on scorched earth, hacking 55 banks and cryptocurrency exchanges. I'm going to talk a little bit about the targets, my modus operandi for actually hacking these apps, and the results and really what to do about it. Okay. All right, just a quick question, a quick slide on who I am. For those of you who have no idea who it is I am, I'm a recovering hacker of 21 years. I'm an API hacker. I was really branded as such back in 2019, 2020, when I downloaded and hacked 30 mHealth apps and APIs. Took remote control federal and state law enforcement vehicles through their APIs, as well as financial services and fintech apps. In 2021, this year, I just published new research on hacking healthcare APIs, which are referred to as FHIR APIs, that gave me access to millions of patient records. And then I'm also publishing a new book on hacking APIs, which will be coming out in 2022. I am a serial entrepreneur. I started and sold my first company in 2001. And then in 2008, I sold my second startup when I was 27. And now I'm in the process of exiting on my third startup, which is a managed security service provider. So I've been starting and selling companies over the last few years. I'm also a screenwriter and filmmaker. So I'm writing a new screenplay that's going to be producers that approached me to produce a new TV series that'll be airing, and it's going to be based on my life. I was arrested for hacking into a government network when I was 17. The charges were subsequently dropped, and I went to go work for the U.S. intelligence community in cyber warfare. So obviously makes for a good screenplay. And then I also, with my wife, own a family of companies, Night Inc., which is a content creation firm, which is the product of this research I'm presenting today, Night Entertainment, Night Publishing, Night Capital, and then Night Events. And speaking about Night Events, I'm very pleased to announce that API Days and Night Inc. and M&A Night Events is starting a new dedicated API security conference, which will be launching in 2022. So we're really excited about that. We love the API Days team, and we're looking forward to our new venture together with them. It's going to prove to be very successful. Okay, so let's talk about the research. The key takeaways is this. One of the most important things I want to talk about is the fact that an API security company called No Name Security actually sponsored this research. So we're content creators. So what I do is I create content that proves the efficacy of a security product by hacking something. And so what we did was we wanted to prove the capabilities of No Name to be able to detect and prevent attacks on APIs. So what my proposal was I said, okay, look, why don't I hack banks and cryptocurrency apps through their APIs, since it really is the plumbing of our financial services and fintech system today. And that's just not in the United States. Obviously, that's globally. We have PSD2 in the UK, which is now, which is also known as open banking here in the United States. And all over the world, APIs, as all of you know, power our entire infrastructure. So 54 of the 55 apps that were reverse engineered contained hard-coded API keys and tokens and even usernames and passwords to third parties. So even in 2021, we are still hard-coding API secrets and usernames and passwords in mobile apps. This is an incredibly bad problem and a bad thing to do, of course. So for you developers in the audience, stop doing this. It is a very common thing that I'm finding that's systemic across multiple verticals. So what I did was I downloaded the 55 apps onto my Android device, and then I used APK extractor from the Google Play Store to extract the APK files off of the Android device, load them onto my workstation, and then reverse engineer them in MobSF or Mobile Security Framework. So this outsourcing led to the compromise of 300 other banks. So what happened was a bank had approached me and said, look, Alissa, as part of this research, we want to have you hack our APIs. And what I found out was that the vulnerabilities that I'll talk about here shortly, which is broken object level authorization, or BOLA, and broken authentication, were actually the code was actually reused by a company that they outsourced their development to. And so these vulnerabilities were then found in 300 other banks that were clients of this company. So for those of you who are outsourcing the development of your APIs and apps, make sure you trust but verify. You want to always make sure that even though you're outsourcing it, you understand that you're not abdicating it. So you're still responsible for making sure that those apps and APIs are penetration tested and that they're free of these sort of issues. Many of the APIs were secured with web application firewalls that were unable to detect my attacks. One of the big takeaways that I had from this research was being able to prove that the point of securing APIs is that you secure them with API threat management solutions. Stop using legacy WAFs and these other things that your sort of is your go-to for protecting legacy web applications and monoliths with web application firewalls. WAFs are not going to be able to detect logic-based abuses like broken object level authorization and broken authentication. They're looking for things like SQL injection and bad things in the payload and the headers. So you want to make sure that you're using the right tool for the job. So those of you are probably thinking, hey, Alissa, these are real problems. Broken object level authorization, but broken authentication, these are real issues, but those must have been small community banks, or those must have been small neobanks, or those must have been 1 or 2 person startups. Just a few of the facts. These are not all of them, just a few. 55 of the financial services and fintech mobile apps covered 19 banks, 11 cryptocurrency exchanges, and 21 neobanks. 19 of those banks were banks, and 4 had over 101,000 employees. 5 between 51,000 and 100,000 employees, and 8 of them had 10 to 50,000 employees, and only 2 of them had 1 to 10,000. So if you're thinking, hey, these must have been small community banks, that wasn't the case. The cryptocurrency exchanges, for crypto under management, 2 had over $10 to $50 billion in crypto under management, and 4 had over 500 employees. So again, these are not startups where you can say big companies won't have this problem. That's not a true statement. So here's the results of the research, because that's pretty much why you're here, right? The APIs that were vulnerable to broken object level authorization actually allowed me to change the PIN code for any ATM debit card of any customer in the bank. So as long as I knew the ATM debit card number, I could change that PIN code, and it didn't matter if it belonged to me or not. So what the developers had did was they were authenticating me. They saw that I had a valid session, but they didn't check to make sure that I indeed actually had the authorization to change these PIN codes for these ATM debit cards. And so it affected tens of thousands of customers. Due to a lack of authorization being applied, it was possible to transfer money between accounts. So this was the most shocking thing. So as long as I knew the source and destination account numbers, I could even transfer funds between accounts. And this was basically due to a flaw in the code and absence of OAuth2 tokens. So they weren't even using tokens at this bank. It was possible to perform both attacks without authenticating. So even the broken object level authorization, even the broken authentication, even the ability to transfer money between accounts, none of that required authentication. And I didn't find this out until after the actual tests were done. So what do you do about this, right? So organizations need a complete API inventory. You cannot protect what you don't know you have. So this includes associated data and metadata. Know what APIs are in your attack surface. This is also referred to as attack surface management or the shadow API problem. Make sure that your threat management solution has the ability to create a real-time inventory of your APIs. Back in, since I began doing this, and again, I'm doing this for about 21 years, but since I began doing this, a lot of the organizations had a few hundred API endpoints. Now I'm working with an organization that has over 6,000 API endpoints. So, know what you've got, know what data those APIs are actually transmitting, processing, and storing. It doesn't make sense to pay the most attention to the API that's not processing anything sensitive. Maybe you're going to want your diligence to be around the APIs that are actually processing PII or PHI or PCI. So know actually what data is being served. Organizations need better visibility into their traffic and the behavior of their APIs. I can't tell you how many of the organizations that I worked with and hacked didn't know that I was hacking them. They weren't actually tapping into that traffic. They had no visibility into what traffic was going to and from their APIs. So know what's actually going through your APIs. Try and interdict that traffic and look at it and analyze it and know what is actually going there and that you have the ability to stop it if it's bad. Organizations need to identify security gaps as part of their SDLC. So, I'm a big believer in shift left security, shield right. So, make sure that you are training your developers on secure code development. Make sure that you have checkpoints as the code is being written to ensure that there's a penetration test being performed at key and critical steps before the code goes into production, not after. We need to get away from this mindset of just quickly getting speed to market and being first to market and forgetting about security until that happens. So I'd really like to challenge all of you as organizations to make sure that just this this polarized environment between IT and security or developers and security, that those days are over and that those days end, and that we understand that we're all on the same team defending against the same enemy. That enemy wants to disenfranchise us. They want us to turn on each other and not operate as one functional team. And it doesn't matter if you're a developer or security engineer or IT, DevOps, whatever, that it doesn't matter. We're all defending the same battleground, and we all need to work together to do that. And then finally, hack your own APIs. I can't tell you how important it is that you bring in penetration testers to hack your code. I work with a lot of organizations that just rely on their developers to do static code analysis or even dynamic code analysis. But bring in people that aren't drunk on your own Kool-Aid. Not that I have anything against developers doing security testing, but you have to understand that they're the ones writing the code. They know where the bodies are buried. They know sort of, the issues in their own code they're writing. So something to think about is not only just having pen testers within your organization hack your APIs, but bring in outside pen testers. Bring in people that haven't written the code, don't have visibility into how it works. More like a black box penetration test. Have hackers that don't know the environment actually hack your apps. And that's it. That is all. That's all I've got for you. The report and a short film is actually going to be published here shortly. The plan is to release this in January of 2022. So we're in the process of putting the screenplay together for the short film, create the video content, and then film it and cast it and film it. And then also the report will be published, and that'll be available at nonamesecurity.com. So with that, the video is actually, there are some videos available on this research on my YouTube channel. So go to www.youtube.com, search for Alissa Knight, subscribe to my YouTube channel. That is where I push all of my new content out first. And then follow me on Twitter, and then connect with me on LinkedIn. You can hit me up on social media, and I'm happy to talk to all of you. So again, thank you so much to all of you, and I want to wish all of you a very happy holiday. And I'll open it up to questions.
Hello. Hello,
Hey, there
Alissa.
you are, Mehdi.
Yeah, just to say one quick question. Thank you for the presentation. Really, with all this money, it's so easy to get in?
Yeah, walking into this research, I wasn't sure, you know, what I would be dealing with. I was thinking that banks, especially cryptocurrency exchanges, that I would not run into kind of low hanging fruit that I was seeing. Just this is really day one of hacker school kind of stuff. OWASP API security top 10, number one and number two, and so this is it definitely should have been harder. But the fact that I was able to move money in and out of accounts, change PIN codes, this was a big thing. So it was really surprising to me how easy and remedial this work actually was. But this isn't just systemic with financial services. If you look at a lot of the vulnerability research reports that I put out in healthcare, in transportation, in these other sectors, you can see that this is pretty systemic to all of these different markets. It's not just financial services.
But we would have thought that for financial services and crypto were actually, this idea of platforms, as platform gather, accumulate more value, it means hackers and attackers like Black Hat, whatever, but and attackers will concentrate into where the value is. And so even like with this, like still, but at least did you see any difference, more security or more security measures for cryptocurrency exchanges than for banks or healthcare companies?
No, as far as like the hard coding of API secrets into the apps, that was across cryptocurrency, the neobanks and the traditional Main Street banks. The BOLA and broken authentication, the sensitive disclosure of sensitive data, all of that was cryptocurrency as well as banking. So, it wasn't like one sector was more secure or less secure than the other. I was finding the same vulnerabilities across the different test subjects. So, and when my report comes out, you're going to be able to actually have an infographic that shows and breaks down the vulnerabilities by sector and then by organization type. So that is coming.
Did you see at least, not let's not name and shame, but maybe we can name and be proud of some people. Did you see one company that were doing the job really well?
If you look at the statistics and what I've published, it was 54 out of the 55,
Yeah.
were vulnerable to what I like to call women in the middle attacks, and being able to actually go in there and analyze the traffic to the APIs and see how the APIs were working. So, there was only one app, and that was actually in the banking side. where I wasn't able to do that. So I mean, the research is definitely ongoing, and we're going to continue to add more and more evidence and screenshots and vulnerabilities into the research report as we go into January. But right now, the cryptocurrency exchanges are definitely just as bad as banking. It's almost
Yeah.
like they're outsourcing it all to the same developer.
Yeah. So if it happens in healthcare, in banking, in cryptocurrency, so it's a bigger problem than just one company that's not doing the job. Like what's the overall problem that everybody's facing and nobody really resolves there?
I think it's the fact that we're remembering to authenticate, but we're not remembering to authorize. And developers need to understand that just because you're authenticated, it doesn't mean you're authorized to see all of the data or manipulate all of the data. If you're going to implement tokens, you need to do things like implement scopes. Make sure that if Alyssa Knight is logged in, she shouldn't be able to, manipulate any of the data for Medi's account. It's you need to understand that I would like to see the world move to more of a zero trust security framework where we don't trust the data, we don't even trust the app that we've developed to interact with our APIs, that we don't trust the human, that we don't trust anything. So we trust but verify everything.
Yeah. So yeah, and I understand the idea. So what you say is that the most common mistake is that developers don't get the least privilege idea, right? Give the minimum access to what's required, and don't grant all scopes.
Yeah, correct. So it was this concept of least privilege, and I should actually correct what I said earlier. Don't trust and also verify, in this case. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely you want to implement the concept of least privilege. And the other thing that I noticed in my research also is that making sure that developers, when you're implementing microservices, that you implement that you implement segmentation of databases. So if you have different microservices and you're storing different types of data, don't use one single data lake or one single mass database for all of these microservices, and all these APIs. You want to definitely implement microsegmentation of data across different databases and allocate them to different services. There was in one instance where one company developed an app for one company and then another company, and a lot of that data was actually being cross-pollinated into a single data warehouse. And so you want to make sure that if you have an actual segregation of data, that you implement microsegmentation at the database.
Yeah. Also, one question: we have you advocate zero trust. Earlier, the CTO of Dashlane was advocating zero knowledge. So it's everything zero. We need to have zero. At one point we'll have zero data. you
Yeah,
know.
well, it's the thing is that weakest humans are the weakest link in security, right? So it doesn't matter if your CISO has a blank budget, a blank check for buying whatever they want. At the end of the day, humans are the weakest link, and in this case, it could be the developers. It could be the fact that insecure code is being written and published into production, and no one's testing it, or no one's found the vulnerabilities in it. So you need to make sure that you're sending your developers to secure code training. You do have that sort of zero trust, zero knowledge approach. And I definitely agree with that. I don't think we should be trusting anything in the environment today. The castle has completely left the moat. There is no such thing as data where us being able to surround security controls around one place where we're trying to force data to stay. It doesn't work that way. Data is everywhere. It's on BYOD. It's on our employees' mobile phones. Now in this post-pandemic economy, all of our employees are working from home. So CISOs need to also think about the home networks of their employees that their daughter Jane is gaming on. So these are all things that need to be considered, and the fact that we're just data and applications and networks are ever. Mark my words. I'll be the first to say it. I believe that the intranet is dying. I believe this concept of a single intranet internal to a network that you're deploying and security controls on and securing, that the days of the intranet are gone, and that we're moving more towards, I mean, what reason do employees have to VPN into an internal network anymore when all of the data is moving to SaaS platforms like Salesforce HRMs, ServiceNow, file servers at Box and Dropbox. There's no reason for employees to VPN into the internal network anymore. I as a CISO for Quantic Bank, I can tell you that when I went out looking for even an NDR solution, I was looking for an agent-based solution because I want visibility into where my employees are, and now they're at home. There is no cubicle farm and an intranet anymore. Now, there's some organizations that still need to maintain an intranet. I get that, like hospitals or, manufacturing facilities where that can't move. But a lot of the world is dismantling their intranet, and everything is moving to the cloud if it's not already there.
Yeah, two questions for the last minute we have. I know it's short, but someone is asking a question. What do you think about the honeypot strategy?
Oh, you know, uh, I think it's a great way to get adversarial knowledge on what tactics and techniques are being developed, what craft is being developed by black hats and adversaries to target APIs. As a matter of fact, I was in the process of developing and launching a production API, HoneyNet, to understand how attackers are targeting and breaching APIs. I'm a big fan. I used to be a member and actually used to work with the HoneyNet project and do the scans of the month. And for those of you who remember Lance Spitzner and the HoneyNet project, a lot of people are still very heavily invested in that. But it ran HoneyNets, was big into researching them. But yeah, so I would say I'm a big fan.
Yeah. So in the previous API we had one of the previous CTO of HoneyNet making a demo online that putting an IoT. It was a whatever, a fridge or whatever online, and in few seconds, like, oh my god, like, oh, so many attempts to take on the stuff. Last question, really, is it sustainable? Is it sustainable?
Uh,
All of it?
what is sustainable?
With so many holes, so many issues, so many breaches for all industries. Like, it's it is a digital infrastructure we're building based on the API economy and as a service economy. Is it sustainable with so many breaches, so many holes?
I think I'm a big believer in that we there you're going to get breached if you're connected to the internet and you have employees. It's going to happen. So I think the number of breaches are going to continue to rise going into 2022 in APIs. As a matter of fact, Gartner published a statement on this that API breaches are going to be the number one method of attack for adversaries in 2022. I believe in that. If you think about it, hacking is no longer about defacing websites. It's about profiting, and not just profiting, but double dipping. So lock and leak, ransoming, encrypting, and then also leaking the data and selling it again on the dark web. Where is that data being stored? Where is it being? Where's the honeypot? It's the APIs. That's where the data is. So your adversaries are going to begin targeting you at your APIs, and right now it's a very soft GUI exterior. And I'm proving that with the vulnerability research. If you go on my YouTube channel, I have videos of hacking banks through their APIs, hacking federal and state law enforcement vehicles through their APIs, all of this infrastructure through APIs because they're vulnerable. And we're repeating the same sins that we were making 20 years ago of hard coding usernames and passwords in apps. I mean, that's ridiculous. And it's 2021 and we're still doing that. So,
Yeah, facepalm.
yeah.
Thank you very much, Alissa. Thank you for
Thank you,
this
Mehdi.
great, like, some
Yep.
comments there in the chat. Thank you very much. We'd love to see you in the real for the 10 years of APIs Paris next year. We will do everything we can to have you there.
Oh, thank you, Mehdi. Yeah, and I look forward to our new venture together at API Secure.
Of course, API Secure, the dedicated API security conference, the partnership between Apidays and Alissa Knight and Knight Empire, right? Media,
The Night
arts,
Empire
events.
works.
So that's the idea.
Thank
Thank
you,
you very much,
Mehdi. All right.
Alissa.
Take care. Happy holidays, everyone.